Hello everyone, welcome back. I got in a new optic from Feyachi. Okay, so this is a budget $50 reflex optic. It's the RSL-88 reflex sight. Okay, so this thing is $50 and it comes with a laser. Now, a lot of you guys might say, "Hey, wait a second, why am I messing with like $50 optics? You know, when I've got like optics, like I got scopes that like cost like $1,500 that I've reviewed. Why am I messing with a $50 optic over here?" Well, there's a place, there's a use for everything. Okay, so in this case over here, I've got this Ruger 1022 that I've got this $300 hollow sun on it. Okay, this is the 503 CU. Okay, so this is a circle dot. It's a 2 MOA dot with a 65 MOA circle, solar powered. All right, so $300 optic over here. I've had it for a while. You can see it's kind of like scratched up and beat up. But what I want to do is I want to take this optic off my Ruger 1022 that I primarily use to train like 10-year-olds, right, and 8-year-olds. I want to take it off of this, and I want to put it on this AR-15 that I got in from Palmetto. Okay, so I got a new AR-15 over here, and I want to put an optic on it. I want to basically, test it for accuracy, etc. So it makes a lot of sense to me, right? It makes a lot of sense to basically put the $50 optic on the Ruger 1022 that I used to train like 8-year-olds, and take this optic and put it on the AR-15. Okay, so that's my plan. I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's open this up and let's see what they sent us. All right, so we got the instructions here. All right, we'll probably read that last. Okay, we got a cleaning wipe. All right, so they sent us a pressure pad. I'm guessing that this is for the laser because it has like the laser attachment to it. Now, like I said, they did send this to me. They also gave me a discount code or a promo code to give to you guys. I don't get any kickbacks. I don't get like any money out of you buying this. It's basically we're both mutually benefiting from this in the sense that I get an optic to put on this gun over here. I get more content from my channel. And like I said, I wanted a cheap optic to put on here. I'm benefiting from this. And they also gave me a discount code. I think you guys get like 20% off if you buy any of their products from the website. Again, I don't get a kickback or anything from that. So that discount code will be in the description below. Okay? In fact, I don't monetize this channel. I don't make any money off of any of these videos in any way. I only make money one way, and that's by like training people in person. Okay. So that's what I do, right? So they give us, let's see, a blue battery for the laser. All right, they give us the battery. It's a 2032. Okay, so it comes uninstalled, which is fine because a lot of times when the batteries come pre-installed, they sometimes run down. Okay, so that's everything I see in there, right? All right, so let's get the garbage cleaned up. Let's get the instructions in there. Let's take this thing apart, take a close look at it. So this is my first time taking it out of the bag and looking at it. So I'm gonna say that I have bought this optic in the past. Like I actually started out with this optic. Let me give you guys a close up. I started up with this optic design as my first red dot minus the laser, right? Because the laser looks like it's something that just like they've attached to it. Okay, so my first red dot was actually this exact design without the laser attachment, and it might have been sold under some different name because I think these probably come out of I think there's a number of companies that buy parts from a parent company, however that works. But I have purchased this optic in the past. Like when I first bought it, I think some 15 years ago, I think it was something like $20, but without the laser attachment. Okay, so with inflation, with the laser, yeah, $50. I mean, yeah, it's kind of keeping up with stuff. So as you can see, it has like it has 4 reticles. Right, you flip this to the side, and you get 4 reticle choices. And one of the things that we're going to check is if we if we switch from one reticle to the other reticle, I'm going to check and see if there's a 0 shift. All right, because that's again, we're shooting a 22. 22 is like that Ruger 1022 is about 3 to 4 MOA accurate. Okay, so at 100 yards with like CCI Blazer, I'll get like 3 to 4 inches at 100 yards. So we'll see if there's a shift when I change the different reticles here, right? And then you've got a number of different color settings here. You got green and you've got red, okay? So you can see how that changes. So because I actually purchased this, let's talk about this because like I said, I actually purchased this about 15 years ago minus the laser, this exact design, and it was my first time working with red dots, right? I put it on an AR-22. Actually, I might have even, it was an AR-22, and I probably bought a second one. I think I had like 4 or 5 of them. I ended up just giving them away. I had one of them on this Ruger 1022. Okay, and as what I started doing is I started giving them out to customers as I got into more expensive optics. But it's worth noting the story because prior to putting a red dot, almost this exact same red dot on this Ruger 1022, and going back 15 years, when I was training women in particular, I noticed that I probably had I had a fairly low retention rate with with first-time shooters that were women. Like maybe I retained about 20% of them. Okay. Women just weren't interested in the whole business with iron sights of lining up the front sights. It's just like it confused them. They didn't like it. It annoyed them. So I only had about a 20% retention rate. When I put this, what was back then a $20 red dot on this Ruger over here, like all of a sudden I had something like a 95% retention rate, right? Because I would put the red dot on there and they would see it, and especially, they'd be like, ooh, 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 I see it. And the red dot really excited them, and that's when I was like before I even got around to again, this was at the time, red dots were new to me. Before I even got to the point where I realized how much better red dots on rifles were for me personally, from a business perspective, I was like, wow, this is a seller. This is going to, this is something that customers are going to like, and they're going to want to get more training, and they want to do more shooting. So from that point, I started putting red dots on all my rifles. At the time, red dots were not available on pistols yet. So what happened is early on, like all the women wanted to shoot the rifles with the red dots on them, but they had no interest in the pistols, right, where they had to line up the sights. And then down the road, when I put the red dots on pistols, right, when that started becoming more common, and I think that was only something like 6 or 7 years ago, all of a sudden, like, same thing happened with the pistols that had the red dots. I went from women like having like only a 20%, like maybe even 10% retention rate, where I put the red dots on pistols, and now all of a sudden, like, I had like an 80-90% retention rate with women shooting pistols. So now all of a sudden, women want to shoot pistols too. So clearly people enjoy shooting guns with optics on them. Okay. So anyway, so the plan now is I just kind of wanted to go through the box here, see what was in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hollow sun off, put it on this AR-15, and then this red dot's going to go on here. I'm going to see, I may have to use a riser. I'm going to have to, no, actually, we'll see if I have to use a riser with this. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, I'm going to kind of do that off camera where I set it up. And then we'll do a little shooting. I'll zero it in. We'll do a little bit of shooting, and I'll let guys know what I think. Oh, also, very interesting. As far as the laser, right? So this thing has a laser. Is there a point for this having a laser? Oh, and this is cool. I can see that the laser can be activated either with a button in the back, or it actually comes loaded with a battery. Okay, so it does have a battery in there. So the battery that they give you is an extra. Let's see if does the red. Yeah, actually, it does come. All right, I did not realize this. So even though they give you an extra battery, they give you an extra battery. It comes with a battery pre-installed that I can see. Let's get that on camera. All right, so yeah, so that there's a pre-installed battery, and let's go through this. Let me make this on the brightest setting. There's a dot on me. All right, so let me get this on the rifle. So one of the things I was saying, as far as the laser, is there a point to the laser, right? You can see the laser. So it's actually, I have found it useful for training kids, because a lot of times I'll put, let's say, like an 8-year-old on a rifle, and I'll tell them, okay, you put your face on the gun, look over there, do you see the reticle? And they'll tell me yes. And I'll say, okay, well, point it towards the target. And if I have a laser on the gun, you know, that's basically co-witness to the red dot. I can see the laser on the target, right? Because a lot of times with like an 8-year-old kid, they'll tell me that yeah, they see it and it's on the target, but then I'm looking out there and I see it's not on the target, and that's how I have found the lasers to be especially useful for training kids. Okay, so you know, because I'm able to see what they're looking at without actually, you know, being behind the glass. I can stand behind them or next to them, and I can see where they're pointing the gun. So that's how I have found the lasers to be extremely useful. Okay, so anyway, let's get this thing mounted, and we'll take a couple of shots with it. All right, everyone, so I got the optic mounted on this Ruger 10-22. Okay, zeroed it in at 25 yards. So a couple of things you gotta be aware of, and I think I kind of knew this, like I said, because I've had this style of optic before. So a couple of things that I sort of knew, but I kind of forgot, and I kind of refigured out. With the reticle selector, right? Pick one and stay with it, right? If you keep going back and forth, what happens is the reticles rotate. And actually, if you rotate it, you can actually, you know, you can actually see both reticles at like the two ends of the glass. So because it rotates, if you move this, by switching back and forth between different reticles, you're going to kind of lose your zero a little bit. Like not a whole lot, because it does kind of set, but yeah, it's going to decrease the chance of you holding a zero. Okay, so that's what first thing you want to do is pick a reticle and use it. I picked the reticle that was closest to the 65 MOA circle with the 2 MOA dot, and that one is the second one from the right. So that sort of made the most sense, because again, the idea here is that, you know, I wanted to take that Holosun, 2 MOA dot with 65 MOA circle off of this Ruger 10-22, you know, put it on a real AR-15 and kind of train the kids with this. Okay, so now with normally I have kids shooting at 17 to 30 yards, so the accuracy is going to be fine. Even if you're changing the reticles, it's not going to be that bad, but it will be more accurate if you just pick one reticle and stay with it. Okay, now the other thing is you do have two different colors, and it's the same deal with that, right? Pick a color, zero it in, and stay with that. Because I zeroed it in with the green, when I went to the red, I think at the 20 yards it dropped by like a half inch. Okay, at 30 yards. But when I went back to green, it was where I had originally zeroed it. Right. So the same deal with that. Pick a color and stay with it. Pick a reticle and stay with it. Okay. Let's do a little bit of shooting with this thing now. So actually I have it, let me dim down the color a little bit. Dimming down the color didn't seem to affect it much. Let's put it on setting number 2. See if you guys can see that. I think you guys can, like I was actually working with setting number 2, but I don't think you guys are going to be able to see it bright enough in the camera. So let's go up to 4. So there's 5 brightness settings. Yeah, that one seems to be pretty good. The focus is going to be a little bit off because the camera doesn't quite know what to focus on. See if I can bring it into a certain, see if I can get it to focus in. Is that going to be better? Wait. Oh, there we go. We almost got it to focus. I had to go. Oh, no. Right there. There we go. That kind of works. No, had it for a second. I don't need it to be in focus to hit it. I just want you guys to see what this looks like. And I think I did have it there for a second. There it goes. Come on, get focused. I do have a camera adapter that mounts to a scope, but you know I can't mount it to this. It doesn't. There's no way to mount it to this. Come on, give me focus. There, right at the top there. There we go. All right, so that's where it's gotta be. Let's see if I can go a little further out. See those targets over there. I'm basically aiming through the camera. Can't line it up. Nope, I gotta go a little further back there. If I go further back, it comes out of focus. So I'm trying to hit the targets at 30 yards, but yeah, it's right at the top. So that's one of the nice things about red dot. You can have it like, you could be like, let's go back to the. So yeah, so basically shooting this one-handed, you know, holding the camera in my left hand. Basically, the stock's braced up against my chest as I'm basically looking in the camera, and you know, with the red dot, you can still make your shot. I mean, that's how awesome red dots are. I mean, even with the blur, like right there, it's blurred. I can still make the shots pretty easily. Yeah, so this is very cool. One of the things with the laser, okay, because I did also zero in the laser. With the laser, you can basically just co-witness it to the red dot. Okay, the red dot, I think it had like a half MOA adjustment. I mean, I looked in the instructions really quickly. I didn't see anything in there that told me, but it appeared to be half MOAs just based on my experience. With the laser, the adjustments seem to be like a lot more. Like maybe it's a 1 MOA or maybe even 2 MOA adjustment. So yeah, just co-witness your laser to your optic, and like I said, it's very useful for when training kids because, like right now, I'm like not looking. Actually, hold on. Yeah, there you go. I can see the laser on the target. I'm not looking through the scope. Right there. Take a safety off. All right, so I'm not looking at the red dot now. I'm just looking at the laser. So this is kind of cool because I can have because basically I can put like an 8-year-old in the gun, and I can basically flip this on for a second. I'll tell them to aim. I'll flip it on for a second to see where they're aiming at, and then once I see that they're on the target, I'm just going to flip it off. The reason is if you leave the laser on, they're going to see 2 dots up there. So you don't want them to see 2 dots. That's going to confuse them. So I'll just use the laser like really quick just to make sure that they're on the target that I want them to shoot. And then I'll just hit the button over here and just flip it off. Or just flip it off like that. All right. So that's how I've used lasers on ARs to basically train kids. So I wanted to give you guys my sort of final initial impressions on this budget optic. Who are you? RSL-88 Reflex. Okay, from Feyachi. So basically, this $50 optic, okay, saved me $250 because I needed another optic to put on this AR, okay? And what I was able to do is I was able to take this optic, right, this hollow sun off of this Ruger 1022 and put it on this rifle. And I didn't have to buy another optic for that. So that's a really good way, I think, to make use of just this budget optic, but budget optics in general, okay? And like I said, the laser, I have found that useful for training kids because I know where they're pointing, like, you know, exactly what they're aiming at. And usually I'll just put it on, I'll see where they're pointing the gun at, and then I'll flip it off, right? Because like I can see, like right there, without even aiming it, you know, take safety off. Okay, so you can use that laser to, you know, like I can see exactly where where they're aiming the red dot. Just gotta remember to turn it off. You know, what I'll normally do is I'll just turn it off. In the past, I've had like the laser mounted over here, so this optic is nice because it's actually mounted on the optic. Now the laser is removable, right? If you decide that you don't want to have it on there, you can. It is removable. The screws there that you can take it off. One of the issues that I found, that's not that big of an issue, but if you have a side charger like this Ruger 1022, I mean it is a little cramped in there. I can still get in there and, you know, and work this. But yeah, it's you know, that might, if you have a side charger, that, you know, you may not like the laser. Because like I said, everything kind of gets cramped over here. As far as a riser on this, because like I said, I was wondering if I was going to need to put a riser, and I was thinking back to like some 15 years ago when I had the same style. I don't think I, you know, had used the riser, and one of the things that I remembered is normally when I put when I had the hollow sun. Right, because the hollow sun is really meant to go like you know, this riser is meant for an AR-15 to give you like a 2 3/4 a line of sight over bore. When I had this optic on that Ruger 1022, usually with kids, what they do is they end up putting their jaw on the gun, because for small kids, for 8 years old, it sits a little bit high. So this optic is actually going to be a better choice because it sits a little bit low, and at the same time, it's not that bad even for me. Like when if I close my eyes and come up on the gun, right, that circle is sitting, like, instead of it being in the center of the window, it's like at the upper it's sitting in the upper 2/3, right? So it sits a little bit high. So it's high for me, meaning the optic is a little bit low for me. But for most kids, this is going to be perfect. So again, this is another reason why this is a perfect option for a gun that I want to train kids on. So main thing, like I said earlier, pick a reticle, zero with it, stay with it. Okay, don't be flipping the reticles back and forth, because that is going to shift your zero 100% guaranteed, because basically the reticles rotate. So every time you shift this back and forth, it's kind of like taking the optic off and then putting it back on. Like, your zero is going to be like pretty close, but it's not going to be perfect. So the same deal with the reticle. If you change the reticle, you're going to be close, but you're not going to be perfect. All right. So pick a reticle, stay with it, and the same thing goes with the color. Right. Pick a color, whether it's red or green, and stay with it. Zero with it and stay with it. So I decided to go with the red. But yeah, let's take a little, let's do a little bit of shooting. I mean, well, here we go. That's the 17 yards. That's the 30 yards. All right, let me go out to the 50 yards. All right, make sure I'm still in the camera. Let me see what the edge of the camera is. Yeah, edge of the table here. So I'm going to shoot the 50 yards over there. 2 hits on the 50 yards. Let's go to 65 yards. Okay, the misses are me. It's not the gun. I'm doing this all-handed. Let's go to 75 yards. So this is going to be fun. I'm actually shooting through bushes at 75 yards from this position here. Let's see if I can get these 22s to go through the bushes so that I can kind of see the target. All right, so 75 yards. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dim this down a little bit. I'm going to go to the number 2 position because I don't want to overwhelm the target. 2 hits at 75 yards. And again, I'm shooting through bushes. I'm kind of going based on where I know the target's going to be through the bushes. Okay, let's go to 100 yards with this. Let me see where's the best place to be at 100 yards. 100 yards here. I'm going to go lefty for this one. Okay, this way you guys can sort of see me. I think I should be in the camera at the edge of the table. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go lefty at 100 yards. Let's see if I can make those hits. Okay, shooting offhanded. A little bit more this way. Yeah. 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 Okay. Let me actually bench the gun and go for 100 yards. So I got 3 hits. Safety up. I got 3 hits at 100 yards. Put a few more rounds in there. Let me actually bench this one instead of trying to shoot it offhanded at 100 yards. I didn't know how many rounds I had left on this thing. Still got a round in the chamber. All right, we're gonna go 100 yards. See where the camera's pointed. Yeah, camera's good there. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there because I am 100% at 100 yards with this, so I'm gonna stay with that. But yeah, I mean, you know, for a 22 gun, here's the thing. I was gonna basically, because I needed the other optic. I didn't feel like spending another $300 right now on an optic. I was just gonna take the optic off of this, put it on this, and just, you know, not have an optic on this. A lot of times I'll use like a 22 conversion bolt in my regular AR-15s to train kids. But this $50 option is like, yeah, this is so cool. I can just throw this on here and, you know, I can basically keep this gun running, you know, so not a bad option at all. Okay, so anyway, let me know what you guys think. And you know what, let's finish off this bag. Let's do the mag up. Let's turn up the brightness a little bit. Go 5. Stop this mag over here. Check this. Yeah, so that's the thing with the laser. You know, the thing with the laser is getting to that, accessing the charging handle. You know, it's a little bit more work, but like I said, it's not a combat gun. It's a gun that I use to train, like, you know, 8 years olds. And I say 8 years old because 10 years old, I just put them on a 9mm AR, right? So 10 years and up, I'll put them on AR-9s. So this is strictly for like 5 to like 9 years olds. Even 9-year-olds, sometimes I'll just put them straight on AR-9s. But yeah, I think it's a great option for, like, especially if you're in my situation, right? Where you have a 22, you want to put a red dot on it, but you don't want to put an expensive red dot on it. I think it's a great choice. Okay, so I'm going to put a promo code in the description for you get 20% off. Again, I don't get any kickbacks. I don't monetize this channel. You know, the only thing I get out of this is they send me basically they sent me a free optic. That's the only thing I got out of this. And you know, it's like that's not gonna change my opinion one way or the other. I knew exactly how I was gonna use this, And when I looked at the picture, it's like, yeah, I know this optic. I've had, this is what I started off with 15 years ago when I started putting, like, well, actually, it wasn't 15 years ago. That was like about 10 years ago when I first put optics on ARs. This is what I started off with. So I already knew the optic. I knew, what it was good for. I knew its limitations. So, for a 22, I think it's a great option. Okay, so anyway, drop some comments. I will put the coupon code in the description. Drop some comments. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, one more really important thing I forgot to mention, right? Don't forget to turn off the optic, okay? Because this does not have auto off. And one of the things that I did find frustrating when I was working with this is I kept forgetting to turn it off, and I kept eating through batteries, okay? So it's especially hard if you're somebody like me that has like a lot of optics that have auto shut off, and I normally don't think about turning them off. So yeah, you gotta make a point of remembering to turn this off, because otherwise you're gonna be going through batteries very quickly. Okay, so yeah, I had to put that out there. That's the main thing with this. It's a battery hog if you forget to turn off the batteries. Talk to you soon.